Hey guys, it's Matt. It is pushing Friday afternoon, Friday night. Let's revisit the most important debate of all time. Of all time. Talked about it a little bit here and there over the last few months, but regarding this channel, it's definitely the biggest debate that's going on now, and there is no bigger issue. No bigger issue. No, if anybody's thinking it's light beer from Miller's less filling or tastes great, that's important here at this channel, but this is much bigger, if you can believe that. Is there a spiritual consequence for living your life a certain way, for completely avoiding or not having any understanding of what you're here to do, assuming you're here to do anything? Some people that maybe take up that side of the argument, they would probably even disagree with that. But is there consequence spiritually? So when you come out the other side, a group, I'm a consequence person, and I don't see myself ever moving from that as I continue to observe the reality itself, how it works through its creeps and minions. I'm not a consequence person because I'm scared of anything or scared of getting it wrong. It just when you line up the facts and the circumstances, it just seems to be that there is a consequence for not taking advantage of the tools and what this life experience gives us spiritually. So let me just say a few things before we get into this. Guys, I'm going to be a little bit slower in this presentation. You try talking about these issues. It's pretty big stuff. And I'm trying to defend both sides, even my you could say adversaries fairly. So I have to be more diligent in presenting their side of the argument. I don't think this is a 1.25 exercise. We're just like, let's hear what Matt has to say. I think we all should be thinking through this, and I should even slow down even further. What does your inner knowing tell you when, as I present something? If are you in agreement with it or disagreement with it? And I don't think it's a 1.25 exercise, but I can't control your YouTube variables. Okay, so basically, if you don't know where I'm going with this, there is a group that says, but Matt, look, we are, there might be NPCs here. There might be organic portals here. The group here that's real, many ever there are, we don't know, the 1%, the 5%, the 144,000, we don't know. That's neither here nor there for the purpose of this conversation. The group that's real here, they would say, you know, you, Matt, the real group here, people listening to this, we are of God or we are of the divine. We are of original creation itself. And I hope I'm getting your side correct, but I think I could probably argue both sides of the podium at this point because I've heard so many different takes on both sides. I'm a consequences person, but I'll get into that a little bit later. They would say, look, Matt, you being of the divine, of God, it doesn't matter your religious beliefs. You're part of something, whether you're a fragment or a fractal of it, an individual of it, or part of it. You're part of something that always has been, always will be. It's not something that powerful is not going to put a part of itself, a very important part of itself, into this snow globe, effed up situation, simulation, or whatever. And it's not going to put itself in a situation where it will come out the other side having lost to the creeps, having been actually degraded, or having been totally destroyed. The Pope's comment about, that it was a staged, completely set up and staged leak that Pope Francis was overheard saying to a good friend of his that's atheist, and then he later reported on it or published it when he shouldn't have published it, that he said, bad souls don't go to hell, they go to the abyss, they just go to nothing. Of course, that was, in my opinion, completely a leak on purpose. We guess we could discuss what the Pope or what the Vatican's trying to get out of leaking something like that some other time. But these people would say something, if you are part of original creation, you might come into this existence and not really use it for what you should use it for, not really understand what you should have used it for, but it's not going to let itself be harmed. It's not going to let itself come out the other side spiritually degraded, or as I would say, giving soul tokens away or pieces of itself away. It's just a wasted life, and you're fully protected. Many of these people or have no issue at all with if they want to go to sporting events and continue to work in a certain job, just going and getting renting the movie. renting the classic action Jacksonation with Carl Weathers, or getting the Jabba Dabba Doo. They have no problem with it. Many of these folks would have no problem with it, even though they might say, it's overall they might think it's bad for the body. Let's say spiritually, there's no issue there, Matt. Again, these people would say, I'm just one or two rungs off original creation, off the divine. It's not going to let itself be harmed. Even who I get a lot of great information from, Tony, not my friend Tony, who doesn't even understand how that buildings can't just free fall down like bowling balls in less than 8 seconds. That's number seven. The other two took just over 10.5 seconds, still like a bowling ball. The other Tony would say something similar. Would say that, well, if he puts higher self kind of as a middleman, if you will, a middleman, if you will, between God, source, creation. And he stresses, look, don't try to figure out God, source, creation. The only thing you have a chance of even comprehending in this avatar, this life, this incarnation is your higher self. And I'm pretty sure he would say middleman is a decent way to put it. Saying, well, it has, for the realest of beings here, he would call simultaneous incarnations. So the higher self has a lot of you going on at the same time. My understanding is not like somebody down your cul-de-sac, but different times. There is no such thing as time. All time is, if you back up out of the snow globe, it's just all stacked up on top of each other. These are conclusions I even came to when I wrote the fun fiction book, Quantum of Conscience. But that, things that kind of just came to me before I did a lot of research on it, but a lot of smart people confirm, of course, there's no such thing as time. So higher self has these whole variety, hundreds or thousands of simultaneous incarnations. And somebody like Tony might say, if you are, if you just screw off in this reality, it's like, well, your higher self has learned something from that. And I don't mean to put words in anyone's mouth, and he'll certainly slap me down, beat me down, and correct me if I get it wrong. But he says, higher self has learned. Not everybody has to come in and be perfect. Higher self can learn from all types of incarnations. Maybe it's not going to be, if you're the Snoop Dogg higher incarnation, that might not be the incarnation that really helps higher self exit the game, not get trapped or come back or whatever might be. Saying, the small incarnations actually need to help higher self say, we've had enough of this. We've learned our lessons. We understand now how to exit this game and get out. It's up to us when we can get out. No one's ever gonna. It's not going to be like once we're ready. And this is his understanding, but it completely resonates with my personal belief set. Once we're ready to leave, there ain't no little trick in the light that's going to be able to stop us from leaving. Once we're completely ready, or us related to the divine aspect of ourself, a higher self is ready to leave. You're going to be like, look at this light. Come on. Hey, come on. Come on. I'm playing three-card Monte here. Come on into the light. No one's going to be able to do that. It's not going to be like that pathetic archonic being in Janeway's Voyager. Like, you're not acting like my father. Get into my light. Come into my life. And why are you getting so upset at me, Janeway? So, it's like, it's not going to be, it won't be able to stop us. So, um, where was I going with that? So even if you're a Snoop Dogg incarnation, and it's just, he ain't learning anything. He's not using the tools this reality affords to better himself spiritually. It's like Dre, Dre brought some bitches from the city of Compton to serve me, not with a cherry on top, but when I bust to something, I'm raging about the cot. I don't love you hoes, I'm out the dough. And I'll be rolling down the streets, broken, laid back, living on gin and juice, with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Okay, that's a wasted life as far as I'm concerned. But Tony would say he can even higher self can even learn from him. Murder was the case that they gave me. Snoop says, and then that rolling soul plane. It's like we roll spinners. Sorry. Um, so Tony said even that can help higher self. That ain't going to be the one that breaks higher self out of this game. But okay, the first thing you have to understand is, and, it is an out there concept. I do trust what Tony tells me, but there's not too many people coming to me who tell me that higher self has hundreds or thousands of simultaneous incarnations in different realities all playing out so higher self can learn. When he first explained that to me, it did resonate with me, but I don't know if it's should be necessarily part of this conversation. So this conversation is pretty simple. Let's just assume we are one individual, incarnation. But it doesn't matter what your belief set is, a part of the divine source, God, whatever it might be. Certainly anybody listening to this doesn't believe they're an NPC, doesn't need to test themselves to see if they're NPC. Look in a mirror, and if there's a reflection as a real person, maybe there's no reflection for an NPC. We all know who we are. We don't know exactly what that means, but we know if you're watching this, I mean, we not just believe, we feel it. It's in our DNA, in our inner knowing. We are the highest, maybe the highest level of incarnation that's here. Okay, that we're all confident of that. I don't think you'd be here. Um, if you're chasing or wondering what Ryan Seacrest is going to present on the red carpet coming up, you might not be the highest incarnation. But we're not going to get into NPCs, organic portals, and all that. We're just talking about of the real people that are here, no matter how many there are, whether there's 10 or 144,000 or several million or billions, who knows? But it's not solipsism. I have these debates with people about solipsism. Solipsism, but sorry guys, for those that don't know, it's just the belief that you're the only one. The whole reality is constructed for you or as a test for you. Nobody else is real. So you're the only one. You're watching Matt, but Matt isn't real. You're the only one. And it just the evidence against that has been so overwhelming. But what you end up coming out of you kind of everybody gets stuck on that a little bit to a degree. Like, there's very few of us here, and that's kind of how it comes out the other side. You come out the other side of solipsism, like I'm the only one, when you realize when people are telling are predicting your behavior, telling you that they're acting just like you, doing exactly like you, they wouldn't be able to predict if you're the only real spirit here. They wouldn't be able to predict everything you're thinking. They'd say, "I'm thinking the same thing. Let me tell you about what I'm going through," and you're saying, "I'm going through the same thing." They wouldn't be. They wouldn't. Are they mind readers? These NPCs. So you come out of solipsism though, saying there's not as many here. Many people come out going, "Well, I'm probably not the only one. There's probably some others here." But it certainly isn't everybody. And there's no way to explain the just the amount of people. I know I'm straying a bit, guys. I'll bring it back in a second. The amount of people, just people, whoever they are, whatever they are. I'm a believer that many people aren't as real as others. There is a possibility for NPCs. There is a possibility for organic portals. But it could be people that started out real boy Pinocchio and gave so much of themselves away, they tune themselves down the frequency where then they're just doing everything the reality system wants. So the point is, what's amazing to me going through these times is the amount of people serving the system is beyond anything I could have possibly imagined. And I guess in the end of the day, whether they're serving the system, I like to use the word download because we don't understand the mechanism where, this military, I was watching the Circus's channel, this military general goes before Congress and says exactly what the darkest part of the reality system would want them to say. Then you go over to a news anchor and they're not ever questioning anything. I mean, it's literally, if you have your head in media, there you come across thousands of people a day in one form or another. Person that puts the news together behind the scenes, and thousands just in what you come across that are serving the system in the way it exactly the way it wants, in the darkest way possible. And we'll never know the exact mechanism on how that's done. Why does this always happen in the middle of a I'm going to turn this off. You know, how does that even happen? And it doesn't really matter for the purpose of this conversation. Someone would say NPCs, organic portals, they are here to serve the system. Or if somebody just gave so much of themselves away, like the old soul token concept, you just keep giving yourself away. The system asks for a part of yourself, you give a part of yourself away, and that slowly tunes you down the dial. And once you get on its frequency, literally it's like the download kicks in, and you are serving in whatever your role is in society. You are serving the dark side of this general system. And that what its aim is. I'm straying all over the place. Its aim seems very simple. I'm sure you would all agree. The greater, which just means larger, more encompassing reality system's goal is seems to simply be to hide a human being from itself, to hide a human being from truly understanding what it is capable of doing here. It works overtime to do that. It's constantly getting in our business. It's just does it all the time. And I've said that a lot, but there's kind of in pointing that out, the whole reality system works to hide you from understanding who you truly are. There's no other. If you had one sentence, I don't think there's any other way to put it. So back to consequences versus non-consequence. I guess I was presenting more of the non-consequence position. Let's say, okay, Matt, that's fine. But again, as a Tony would say, even those that are total screw ups in this reality, like Snoop Dogg, they're still serving. Maybe they're serving. The higher self is learning what not to do or how not to be. Um, but at the basic level, the root of their argument, if they were taking the podium against me, would be, look, Matt, even you would agree that we are, obviously much bigger than this incarnation, part of something that always has been and always will be. And if you're part of something that always has been or will be part of something, or even as an individual, would you place yourself in a situation where you could just give yourself away and go into the Pope's abyss? Would you place yourself in a situation where you could be harmed, seriously harmed spiritually? And if I'm answering honestly, you would think, well, if it was up to me and going in knowing who I was, part of something that always has been, always will be, I would say no. I wouldn't want to, even if it is a spiritual level up on steroids or a spiritual bonus points times a million. I don't think I'd place myself in a situation where if I get it entirely wrong, I could flush myself down into the Pope's abyss. So that's a good point that they make. But the counterpoint is somebody saying to me right now, well, Matt, you make the counterpoint. If you're a consequences person and you think there are consequences to living your life a certain way or using this reality system to do certain things spiritually, well, yeah, well, let me because I'm not on quote their side. I'm probably spending too much time presenting their side. The thing that makes me a consequences person more than anything else is how hard they work. Just like I said a few minutes ago, how hard they work to get in your business. And it's pretty simple. If the whole reality system working through hundreds of different systems like politics, media, government, I mean, just hundreds of systems and thousands and tens of thousands of minions just in your immediate area. If you include the media, things through the internet, millions of minions working overtime to get your attention, to get you to chase ridiculous news events, to get you distracted. Why is it working so hard? Well, Matt, I mean, I think the only thing they could come back with is they probably would say, look, Matt, um, you can't give yourself away spiritually. I think they would say this Midian class that's here, they're put here. They would probably say they're less than you are. They're put here to serve a role. And this I do agree with, but I guess that the takedown at the final train stop might differ. They're here to serve a role. The George Bush creatures, the Hillary Clinton things, the Lady Gagas, the Governor Cuomo's, and just the list of minions is endless. Of course, they're here to serve a role. Most serving the role, of course, have no ultimate or real understanding as to what they're truly serving. They're just not connected enough. They're serving the reality system without understanding how they're serving. Like a George Clooney, he doesn't have a clue about anything. Of course, and even inside little buckets, like a Glenn Beck probably knows all about politics, knows that there's no real election for senator in a certain race. It's already been decided, and the powers that be, when they want to make sure something happens, they pull a string and something happens. I think somebody like Glenn Beck would know that, or Rush Limbaugh would know that when he was alive. But they wouldn't have, outside of their little bucket, as you've heard me say before, they wouldn't have a clue as to how this general reality works. I don't think outside of his little bucket, even people that are given too much credit, like Melvin P. Gates, Melvin P. of the Belinda and Melvin P. Gates Foundation, that he has no idea, no idea. If they're running around on TV, they don't know shit about shit other than their little bucket, of which Gates's bucket is computers, technology, potentially uh, transhumanism technology related to renting the movie or related to, the Jabba Dabba Doo. That's from the Fred Flintstones. People have been really on me that that's not Scooby Doo, man. It's the Fred Flintstone. It's the Flintstones, no matter which way you see it as a Mandela affected person. So, he would understand that, but that's not, again, that's still like, that's a pretty big bucket, but it's still not understanding how he himself is being used, or he or it, or whatever it is being used by the overarching reality system. So the overarching reality system uses its minions and its systems to hide you from understanding what you really are. And I think it's working so hard. I would say if somebody wants to argue that the Snoop Dogg incarnation is in some way actually serving its divine self, I'm not, who knows what Snoop Dogg is? I'm just using a dumb example. In some way, Snoop Dogg is serving his higher self. Is that when I talk about an oxymoron? Did I say Snoop Dogg and higher self in the same sentence? Dre brought some bitches from the city of Compton to serve me. Um, sorry. 6 in the morning. They ain't going home till 6 in the morning. Um, but anyway, just go with it. So he's serving. Is he really serving his higher self? Well, to me, why are they working so hard? The system is set up to reward the pursuit of materialism, to reward the pursuit of gin and juice, to reward everything Snoop's chasing. So then he chases it. He has a certain degree of talent, and of course he's beloved now. After all the stuff, murder was the case that they gave me, and all the degradation to women and hoes and bitches and hoes. And see, I probably get this video banned just for saying that. But Snoop Dogg can release platinum albums, and it's fine. It's applauded in the media. So he can just serve it and do exactly what it wants, and they're working hard so as many people as possible go down that path, just chase. Not everybody can be a platinum rapper, Matt, but you can chase it, and you can think that's what's most important in life. Conan, what is most important in life? Not going to do it. You can. So what's it working so hard for, to get everybody to go down? Not everybody's going to be a rapper, but I mean to covet the red carpet, to covet materialism, to just think that, to not even understand there's a spiritual aspect to themselves. What's it working so hard for if there's no consequence? And I've said to a lot of these people, I'm not a consequences person because I'm scared or anything like that. It's like I'm a consequences person because the facts as they line up before me, if why is it working so hard? Why is it have millions of minions through hundreds of systems, all to lay down a gigantic reality trick, a gigantic deception? So again, if you had to say it in one sentence, so human beings don't truly understand themselves. What's all this for? Wouldn't they just get together and say, well, we can't really harm them spiritually anyway, so what do we, and I guess the only thing they would say is, well, they like I alluded to a few minutes back, they're put here to serve a role, and they have an idea of what their role is, at least at the highest levels. Like, again, like Glenn Beck in his bucket doesn't understand, but they get something for it. Like, they're put in, and they get some people to go down the path of Snoop Dogg. They're going to get energy from that, or loosh, or they're going to the asshole group or the minion group was put in here to feed in some way. But again, it's like, okay, well, is that, if every higher self incarnation just chooses the Snoop Dogg route, is that really, there's no consequence for that? That's just serving higher self equally, as if somebody finally can see through the deception, can see through the lies of the news, the lies of the politicians, and try to slowly over time remove themselves from the deception, to see through it, to remove themselves from any, what would have said in the past, Jacob Marley chains that they've noticed are around them, the ethereal Jacob Marley chains, that, oh, I'm gonna work to remove myself from this. Well, the system, my entire life has tried to get me to believe this, the legal fiction of first name cap, all name cap. What a deception, what a trick. So I need to use this to drive, but I'm going to remove myself spiritually from connecting to the straw man or the legal fiction, or connecting to whatever that thing represents. Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man, that he didn't already have. And this is like truth and how truth flowing out through all these different forms of media, like America Tin Man. And actually, as a sidebar, if you go and I actually went down this I guess it was a little bit mini rabbit hole not too long ago, and it said to the Tropic of Sir Galahad. I went, this what does it say? To the topic to the. So I looked up and did some research on the lyrics of America's Tin Man. You know that song. Um, I'm not going to sing anymore, but you know the song. And one theory came forth, this guy that knew everything, and he says, well, let me tell you what happened there. There is no Tropic of Sir Galahad. And he came up, the person that wrote, whatever the name of the lead singer of America was, and I'll go back to the main topic in just a second here, guys. I'll be as brief as I can. So they came up with something catchy, like Oz never did do nothing for the Tin Man that he didn't already have. One of the major truth drops in The Wizard of Oz, of course. He understood something about himself. And, the lyric in America says he didn't need no wizard to give him a damn heart. Oz didn't do nothing for, he already had it inside of him. It's the same with Dorothy. There's no place like home. She didn't need to go through all that and Ruby slippers. She always could go home. It was always within her power. So whoever is writing about this, the lyrics for America, says came up with something unique. Oz never did do something, nothing for the Tin Man that he didn't already have, whatever. So, but then it was just a bunch of nonsense because when artists write songs, they just fill in any old. Oh, the phone's ringing again. They fill in every old word, and then they go back later to put meaningful words in. So it just so it flows. So he jotted down to the Tropic of Sir Galahad. So please, please, as I'm saying. So what he did is he just never went. He just left the nonsense. And he just left the nonsense and didn't go back and fill in the words that made any sense and just thought, we'll just go out with this. Oh, really? Is that what happened? Any second grader could go back knowing the way you want the song to flow. This guy's saying there is no tropic of Sir Galahad, like a tropic of Cancer and a tropic of Capricorn. So, any second grader could go in and fill in words that made sense. From our perspective, those that see how this reality system works and see that incredible truth can be embedded in different forms of music and media, the Vanessa VA stuff, we might say that the message is so profound that like the way to deliver the message uh, more power behind it or more oomph, I'm not saying that properly, is to actually surround it with nonsense. So the only thing that makes sense is Oz never did do nothing for the Tin Man that he didn't already have, or something like that. You know what I mean? And now I'm losing it myself. But then you surround it with nonsense, and it is nonsense, the rest of that song. But then that makes it more poignant. The truth that's flowing out of that form of media for those spiritually that can accept the message that's coming through. And these messages, they come from different forms of media, like just like embedded carrier waves, just like in Contact. What was his name? The guy, the blind guy in Contact, came back to his boss, Jodie Foster, Ellie Arroway, and Kent, his name was, and he says, "Shh, shut up. There's something else here. There's a embedded message. It's audio. Plug it in or whatever. And then you see there's a carrier wave. So nobody." James Woods, who's actually somehow James Woods applauded in the truth community. I mean, you want to talk about a minion serving the system, pretending to be a truther, like Russell Brand and these people. Oh my goodness, James Woods. There's still a segment of the truth community. You've got to be kidding me. Anyway, the James Woods types are people that are on the frequency or dialed down or coveting the red carpet and the generals or the national security advisor. I guess he was the national security advisor. The generals accompanying him. They're at the frequency. They would never be able to get the carrier wave. And where we do get the truth message or the message, the divine message that can actually, I think Vanessa VA would agree, can come through forms of media, art, music, art, etc., without even the artist, mostly without the artist even being aware of it, the musician not even be aware of it. So, why did I stray here initially? We're talking about Well, I don't know. I'm just going to get back to the main point. I thought that was a pretty interesting side conversation. But the point was, why does it work so hard to get us to flush ourselves, to get us to make the wrong choices? If there's no game winner or loser, like what's the point? What's the point? So I don't know what they would say about this. They'd say, okay, you're an aspect of source or an aspect of God or an aspect of divine. You're going to come in here and it doesn't matter if you don't learn a lesson or you just chase the Snoop Dogg lifestyle. You're always, they would say, you're always spiritually protected. You would never have agreed to go in if your spirit is in jeopardy or your eternal nature of self is in jeopardy. So, it's like, it's too bad. Maybe they would say that you didn't learn anything and you really didn't, you chased the Snoop Dogg way of life. You didn't really do what you should, but there's no consequence. There's no consequence. And one of the things that I've said, going back to these folks is, we will debate back and forth, but then I'll kind of come to a realization and say, you know what? It doesn't matter. The great thing is it really doesn't matter if I flip flop even daily between being a consequence person and a non-consequence person, because how I'm going to live my life is the same. It's the same way. And I think this is a pretty important point. And I think you guys would all agree that what I'm going to do, see, it's not like this gets into the fear of religions do in many cases do present fear, a wrath, a punishment, a wrath of God. Many people that obviously this isn't the first time you've ever heard this that sit in churches or synagogues or mosques or many people are very much they're hypocrites. They're only there because they fear the wrath or they want the reward. They're only doing it for those types of reasons, those types of purposes, which obviously is by itself is the wrong path. We're at the point. I don't want to speak for you, but I know we're in this journey. We're very very similar. Where it's say I'm gonna do what I need to do for myself, or when I think it's time to help the little old lady, I'm going to do it just because that is absolutely what I need to do, what I want to do. I'm not doing it for a reward. I'm not doing it because I fear a wrath or a consequence. So the way, this kind of ends the whole debate between consequence or non-consequence, because just the way you live your life is going to be a certain way either way. There's not one thing I would do different. If somebody could convince me and say, man, I'm going to convince you right now, there is no spiritual consequence to chasing the lifestyle of Snoop Dogg. Why don't you get out there in the Hollywood Hills tonight and do it? I would say, okay, I'm convinced. You convinced me, but I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to live my life exactly the same way. So if that's the case, the consequence part doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And some people might say, well, the only consequence you can only put on yourself, not some judge, on the scales once you die. So it kind of eliminates the argument right there. And then once you get to this point, we're going to, try to figure out, if there is consequence, like what do the minions want? What do the minions get out of it? And I've kind of already done that, but trying to do it a little bit different. And I guess I'll still go through it because it's fun and it's interesting to do. But once you get to the point where you wouldn't do one thing different, whether there's the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament, Old Testament, the God of the Bible, Allah, Buddha, Vishnu, Krishna, whatever God is up there, you get to a point where you're going to go, I'm not going to do anything different in my life based on reward or fear. And I think that's actually pretty close to winning. I really do. It relates back to whether people believe me or not. Somebody knock on the door, and I'll just still do it in regard to the cat, the Fifi Addy cat, offer me $1 billion to take the cat out of here. But then the time I presented, I thought it through and be like, well, forget the cat. I know you're attached to the cat, and it's pretty admirable, Matt, if you wouldn't take $1 billion for like your kind of, the cat was a baby stray cat that wouldn't even be in the room with you for 2 years, would run from you, and she's doing a whole lot better, incredibly better. sitting on my leg and all sorts of stuff, peeing on my leg. No, just sitting on my leg. Very, very affectionate, totally coming around. But when went through that example before, kind of got to the point where like, why does it have to be about a cat to protect? If somebody came right now and offered me $1 billion at the door, and again, the proviso here, guys, is I couldn't take it to, you know, better the world, give to the needy, do all the things that Jeffrey Lurie of the Eagles should be doing, and all the non-philanthropy those creeps say they participate in, but they don't. Do all the ways to help people, to change people's perception, put it to work to shake the very foundation of the system that these minions work so hard to support, then obviously I'd take the billion and then start you. But again, remember what I said. Somebody's like, no, you can take the billion, but you'd have any car you want, any house you want, vacations, never worry about a thing, never worry about, obviously you wouldn't have to. I was going to say never worry about missing a bill. I don't think that's an issue if somebody gave me $1 billion. But the point is, I still wouldn't. I wouldn't take. I would if I could use it to help people. I would, of course. But I mean, if you could use it just for all the materialism, seat at the Oscar, all the stuff that at one point in life we thought would be really fun to do, I wouldn't take it. And I hear you guys. I hear you right now yelling at me. I'm not gonna rising out of your bathtub. I hear you. But and people, you're all like, why wouldn't you? You're no great altruistic Matt, you're making it seem like you all special. Like, remember that guy with his I put that clip in the free voice video the other day. He grabs the burger. He's like, "Look at you looking all special." I don't know if that was from Popeyes or what, but Matt, you ain't special. I wouldn't take it either. Somebody say, "I hear you." But that's right. We all get to the same point where the $1 billion. Once you get to the same point of using life for what it should be used for, a certain trying to quote level up spiritually. I know you wouldn't take it either, right? I ain't special. I hear you. But that is amazing to get to that point. And if anybody's saying, we have different levels of people, like, why wouldn't you take it? If you could still be a good person because it would come with too much, you know, it, would all financial stress, would I like that to just go away? Yeah, but there's two, if somebody were to show up with $1 billion, there's too many hooks that would come with it. You can't go that deep under the dragon's wing of this reality system and just completely stay clean. And that stench ain't gonna get on me. That ain't no bugs on me. It ain't gonna, just no way. It would be the person delivering would be like the Brinks trunk, but if you could see, put on your They Live glasses, it would be like the old man from Poltergeist 2, who Carol Ann and actually I think the little Carol Ann, I think she died shortly after Poltergeist 2 or 3. Real tragic. Still a cute little girl in Poltergeist 2. The old guy is like, with the black hat and it's just raining just on him. He's like, "Hi, little girl." It's like it would if you could put on the glasses, that's who would be attached to the $1 billion. It would put like Cenobites hooks in you etherically, and you wouldn't be able to see. There's no way you could go under the dragon's wing like that and not permanently stink. Now, if you're not a consequences person, say, Matt, I'd still be a good person. They can't harm me. They would say they can't harm me spiritually. I'd like financial stress to just completely go away. I wouldn't mind that house in the Alps. I like to ski. They wouldn't, they can't these the alternate camp here would say they can't harm me spiritually. And I would say, there's an awful lot of temptation here and things to chase and they can't get any. You can't Horcrux a piece of your own spirit here. You can't give your soul tokens away. There's just what are all the tricks for? What do they work so hard for then? This is that they've some I know I email back and forth with the same people on this, but or we'll see what Tony would have to say, but I don't nobody's ever given me a good answer on that. Why does it work so hard? Well, I think they would say probably, well, Matt, you still, it's a, it, they, you're screwing up, and there's no consequence to screwing up. This is some would also say the Alan Watts approach. There's no consequence to screwing up, but that doesn't mean you used your life correctly or used it for the right thing. You should have done better. It's like taking a class. I mean, even it's a bad example because you take a class and you just every time the teacher puts the math test in front, you just pick it up and go, just rip it up. Well, there's no consequence to the last day of the semester, and then there's a consequence for doing that, but I don't know. I guess it's the old "will go on forever," less filling tastes great. But again, the point is that clears this whole argument away. Once you get to the point where it's like, I'm not going to do anything differently in the way I live my life, whether there's a consequence or not, or this God or that God or this reward or this punishment, I'm going to do the same damn thing every day. If I feel I need to stop and help that little old lady and that's calling me, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it because look at me, I'm helping. Do I get points for this? There's nothing to do with that. You just completely leave that behind. So it really doesn't matter in the end of the day. And so getting back to that what I was going to present is kind of useless at this point. Might as well still see where it goes. Was in the Hunt for Red October, that wonderful human being, Alec Baldwin, just a wonderful human. Anybody know how I could get his autograph, or it would really be special. Just a wonder. Never screamed at his kids and all that. I think, by the way, guys, this is all the how Alec Baldwin has been presented as such a vile, nasty creature. Part of this is it's actually that's not even natural. This is his role for whatever reason that he's played in this reality system. Um, but you take away his role, I don't think he would be Mother Teresa either. But that's neither here nor there. So in the Hunt for Red October, at this point, he's trying to put the pieces together. Well, I think Ramius who is trying to defect. Ramius, who is Sean Connery. I'm pretty sure he's trying to defect. And if you're trying to defect, and what does somebody say? It's like, you know, that's $1 billion of Soviet hardware. They're not going to just hand it over. It's like, yeah, that's true. How do you get someone to want to get off a nuclear submarine? How do you get someone to want to get off a nuclear submarine? So you do it, you try to do it in the same way, figuring out how reality itself works. And he says, well, okay, the only way it can be done is if you fake a nuclear leak of some kind, then you're going to the crew that's not in on it, the crew that doesn't have any idea about the defection, is going to want, if they think they're going to be radiated, is going to want to get off a nuclear submarine. So it's the same principle, I guess you could apply to with the minions, working so hard to get a human being to forget what it is. What is it? How do you, what do the minion class, what do they ultimately get out of that? And okay, they're serving a role. They get everybody chasing the wrong type of frequency, the wrong type of energy, negative emotion, worry, stress, anxiety. They'll feed from that, from the ether, probably like vampires. Okay, they get all of that out, but then forget the minion class, or even ultimately what stands behind the reality screen, that this is a small snow globe. If you back up far enough, there's something much more powerful than this, whatever stands behind the screen. Whatever we have our discussions and analysis, we talk about our minions and those that serve the systems here that just destroy everything that was once good, and governments. And then there must be some overarching evil that stands behind the screen, like a Christian would say Satan, or something that is kind of animating or getting these minions to serve it without even the minions being aware of how they serve it. So well, obviously that thing isn't all powerful. This is a little snow globe incarnation reality. If you back up far enough, you get into things like God, source, all of creation, all that ever was and all that will be. There's things a whole lot, or at least God's a whole lot more powerful than whatever is driving this reality system. So you have to look at its motivation. And people would say it's New Age. People will say, well, it is, you are part of it. There's nothing wrong. It's saying that God can't, whether it's the Christian God or any God, is it possible for God to create something that is not of itself? That's not possible per definition. God can only create, because it's the original of all that ever was, can only create something of itself. So it's so New Agey and blasphemous to say, oh, these New Age people say they're of God. Well, by definition, there's no other way to look at it. God went down to the Home Depot, which wasn't part of quote himself, and just rented the parts necessary to construct it. It all has to be part of source or God, no matter what your religion. This is common sense. People are like, that's New Age to say you're of God. What? How could that be of New Age? What the hell are people talking about? Um, so so that if you have to back up really, really far and say, well, why is there a whole reality system here, snow globe, that's trying to um, hide a human being from what it is, or what it can be, or its true nature, with distraction, with deception, with lies, with manipulation, with just everything that it does. The whole reality system is a lie, a trick, a deception, a stinky armpit under the dragon's wing. The whole reality system is. So what's it doing all that for? And it's not doing it. People talk about the reality being hijacked or whatever. Um, but remember, if this is the snow globe, this is the reality system. If you back up far enough, whether it's source, God, these beings, or one being, I don't, whatever your thoughts or religion, is a whole lot more powerful than this reality system or what stands behind the screen. So if what's going on, see, this is where I don't buy the hijacking and all of this. Um, it's being done at the, is it behest or bequest? Please, don't comment on that, please. Behest or bequest. Somebody commented, when you have high level discussion like this, guys, please, only try to move us forward. I mean, I said something about sea monkeys being yeast, and somebody was like, no, they're brine shrimp. Is that really important in trying to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation about the highest topics that will ever cross the desk of a human being? It's not important whether it's yeast or brine shrimp in sea monkey packets on the Ocean City boardwalk. So it's not important. It's not important that the little trivia, it's behest, not bequest. It doesn't matter. So the see the evil here, this is something that the truth community rarely goes here. The evil here, it's going on at the behest or bequest or whatever the word is, with the power of attorney or applied authority of the greater God, light beings, whatever, or they're just getting away with it. Down here on this reality system. They're just getting away with it, like it's George Michael's Jesus from a child lyrics, literally, that God just let us all out to play, turned his back, so they're hopeless, walked away, and so then the evil here just said, oh, we're not being watched anymore, and then we can just hijack and break all our contracts and break all the rules and screw. No, it's impossible. No God or source or whatever turned its back on this reality system. If there's evil going on, it was designed to go on that way. That's where, years ago, I started talking about these creeps here, in a way, or in some way we don't understand, are playing a role. Like we are better off. I don't like the way this comes out, but there's no other way to say it. We're better off because of what happened when we submitted the 7-Eleven job application was submitted, and then we followed these fake events, and we have different paths that led to truth. We're all better off because of that. And it proves we're better off because of that, because nobody would go back. Nobody would say, yeah, I want to be cipher. Ignorance is bliss. I'd like to go back and just not understand anything and just be the normie. Nobody, well, maybe a few people here would go back, but almost no one would go back. So these creeps actually, through their role, they're actually, to at least certain of us, certain groups of us, are helping us spiritually actualize, if you will, spiritually actualize. And it's almost like their quota, they just can't meet their quota system. So it's like, what do we have to do? It's, if you look at it, that then I don't like doing this. Again, I don't like, because I don't like it so much, I have to make my position on this clear to differentiate from others. I don't think Hillary Clinton is not getting into bed at night, pulling up the covers, saying, "Oh, it's just tough love. I don't want to do it to him, but we have to because we love him so much." No, I think when they're screwing people and they're feeding off Lucian energy and doing whatever they're doing to people and creating another war with based on bogus facts that they put out through the media and creating death. They're getting off on that. They're feeding from that. Ultimately, if you back up far enough, that's serving at least a group of us spiritually. But Hillary Clinton's not pulling up the covers like it's tough love, but we got to do it. She doesn't love us, or just, they don't. The minions don't. They're not. I don't think that anything the minions are doing, they're doing it out of love. To Henry Kissinger type just says, well, we don't want to do it to him, but we have to do it to him. I don't think that. I just, you know, is it just that it's not the case, or I just don't want to believe that? I don't know, but it doesn't in a way, there's no doubt they are serving a group of us spiritually. Where would you be? You wouldn't go back. Where would I be? We wouldn't go back. That the shark swims and there's those sucker fish that or those cleaner fish that come and just scrape the bottom of the shark and feed off its barnacles or whatever that those sucker things. They're not like really happy with themselves that they help the shark when they're done, but they serve a role. It's no different. So are you saying Henry Kissinger is no different than that sucker thing that feeds under a shark? Yeah, basically. It doesn't, it's not doing it to help the shark. It's doing it for its own selfish purposes. But there's this, uh, in this case, a symbiosis between the shark and the feeder or the suckerfish or whatever those damn things are. And we've benefited, and if somebody like Tony would say, you know, Matt, for your higher self to win this game and understand that it's done enough and take all of its incarnations out of the reality systems, going all you have to go through suffering. You have to have an asshole class. You have to have a minion class. You have to have a Chelsea Clinton, or she's never. Well, I was going to say I'll take. She's never done anything. Who knows what she's done, right? Who knows? Who knows what goes on in those I'd Wide Shut parties? But you know what I'm saying. You have to. People would say you have to go through suffering. You need the asshole class. Where would you be? So I guess I'm being a little repetitive. So, but remember, oh, it's a hijacked reality and it's so evil. No, what many here think they're attached to part of the one God, the source, the whatever is much larger than this reality system. The evil is going on under its watch. It's going on as it's designed to go on. Again, do you really think that this minion class, whatever here, the screen, even if it's Satan, it's local to here? Or even if you say it's not local, whatever, I'm not going to start talking about galaxies and solar systems. I don't believe in any of that stuff, whatever science presents space is. But even if it's not local, is what's, do you really think that what's motivating the minions and driving George Bush to do what he does, or what's going on right now in Afghanistan with absurd presentations and trying to demoralize with this is just another fall of Saigon, another wasted war, and trying to demoralize and all that petty stuff they do for their loosh and they're creating stress, anxiety, worry. You think that is even 1,000 steps away from the greatest power that's in all of existence? Or no, they didn't hijack anything. They're doing it. I should have looked it up at the behest of that greater thing. So if they're doing it at the behest of that greater thing, then the way this reality system is playing out is all by design. It's exactly as it should be. It relates to back the stuff I've talked about. If you look up at the moon one day and Nibiru just comes around the corner, don't be scared. It's playing out exactly as it's designed to play out. So you teach your higher self something, so you learn something. There's no reason to be afraid or fear death or fear anything like that. It just, as time goes on, the only way to push back is to treat this reality system as an absolute joke, a complete joke that deserves only one thing: to be made fun of. That's it. To take it seriously, to analyze its tactical moves, whether it be the V, and I went to a shopping center today in Exton, and it was like 50% mask, 50%. And so that obviously that's being ushered in, and whatever, you know, who cares? Once you get to a certain point, you just live life day by day there's not too much more here we can do, guys. We've seen through the trick. We've seen through the deception. The whole reality is lies, deception, but it's far, quote, worse than we ever could have imagined. And it seems to be on steroids. It seems to be some sort of, time is some sort of is almost sped up in a way, or they're behind schedule, whatever these creeps are. So they have to accomplish certain things, and their time horizon is shrinking. And there's only you can only live life day by day. In terms of trying to predict it, what the minions will, it's just pointless. It's likely what it wants us spending our time on. Um, that's why, when you get down, and I keep saying things like ultimately, what you need to understand is a half a page. There's not a whole lot left to talk about. I'm going to continue to try to teach a high school class here and hope I don't want to lose anybody. I'll go back. We'll look at the movie I just watched. Was it Dreamscape? Dreamscape with who's the guy that was in The Rookie and he was in The Parent Trap? He plays this. He plays. You want to talk about somebody that plays himself? Please don't comment. That doesn't move this conversation forward. Saying who Dad was in The Parent Trap. We know the actor. Brought him back again for that last series of oh gosh, what was that series with Billy Bob Thornton when he was a lawyer? Season 3 was just terrible. They brought him back for that. The point is he was in Dreamscape, and it's an old movie, 25, 30 years old or so, and it's pretty good. It really is pretty good. It is Inception before Inception. It is amazing how it's almost like after the 7-Eleven job application, like around the year 2001. It's almost like I don't know if it's they lost all their creativity or just from a the power they're able to tap into or the presentation, the reality presentation they're able to make. They only can recycle the same shit over and over and over again. So you see a movie like Inception. I don't know what year it was. It doesn't matter. Like say it was I don't know 2013. I don't know 2014. I don't. It was. It's not that old, but it's getting pretty old. And you say, wow, that is a really interesting new concept. But there's nothing new. You go back and Dreamscape is the exact same concept, basically projecting a mental projection into someone else's dream. And it doesn't go down exactly like Inception, but they obviously stole it. And it's almost possible that it would be interesting. Is there anything new after the 7-Eleven job application, like in terms of art, media, movies? This is interesting to do this. If you find a movie that's completely new and unique, could are you sure it would stand alone? Or you could say, even Eyes Wide Shut, the Stanley Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut, and all the critical acclaim he gets. I forget what movie. Somebody it came out on the internet. Maybe it's been out forever, but I just became aware of this about a year ago. That scene by scene, even though what the movie's about is, I think, a lot different. The way it was almost shot, scene by scene, the parallels between another old movie that's about 40 years old are just too close to say it was a coincidence. So even how the movie was made, like stolen from other, what did I see recently? The oh gosh, the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart, I think, is like a complete. Well, that's not a ripoff because that's so old. It could be completely unique. But well, this wasn't. This was before the 7-Eleven job application. But I think Chinatown with Jack Nicholson is completely. They stole the whole character, I believe. I never looked it up. I don't know what people are saying, but to me, Jack Nicholson, the private investigator from Chinatown, is completely stolen from Humphrey Bogart in the Maltese Falcon. And it's also exactly Picard's character when he's like Dix, whatever. Hey, Dix, he's a PI. That's completely stolen from the Maltese Falcon. I don't know if they ever say that. Matt, you didn't even know Picard admits that he created his holodeck character based on whatever, Humphrey Bogart and the Maltese Falcon. But I don't think he does. But that's stolen. Everything's stolen. There's like, is there, you know, how many, there's like 10 original works, and everything is based on those 10 original works. Um, Incredible, absolutely incredible. But, and this is the case even with movies in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but it would be interesting. What's big, completely novel and unique, like, whatever that movie is, just as an example, with Leonardo DiCaprio, where remember he gets mauled by that bear. He just lives on the worms in the dirt in the woods, whatever that, the Revenant or something, if I'm pronouncing that right, the Revenant. Now I don't know anything about it. And I think that Revenant was probably like 2008 or 9 or something, whatever. It's way after the 7-Eleven job application was presented. I don't know anything about the Revenant, but I'm willing to bet, based on just the whole way this goes down, that you can point to something, a book or a movie, or not Grizzly Adams, because that was a friend. I think that was a friendly experience with the big bear. But you could point to something where the Revenant was stole from it, even though it seems unique and it's presented as its own. If you see what I'm saying. I mean, we all know Little Pimp has stolen the basis of all the great work he's done off the backs of others, off great men like Run DMC. But the point is, almost everything could be stolen. And if it would be interesting if this kept playing out over and over again. It gets back to what actually did happen on when the 7-Eleven job application was presented off La Cienega Boulevard in Los Angeles in 2001. When that application was presented in 2001, what actually did happen? And I don't mean to. We've been going this long, and this is crazy, guys. But uh, I don't take off the table at all that. In fact, it's the opposite. This crazy notion is strengthened weekly for me. That you've heard me tell the story years ago that the I was out there chainsawing. It wasn't the biggest tree in the world, but it was. I was gonna say. I'm gonna tell the story. It should have killed me, and it probably did. If you want to turn this video off, probably at this point I'm just gonna start to be gibberish nonsense. Because it's been long enough where I probably can't put a coherent sentence together. But that tree probably it could have. I'm not going to push all my chips on that, but it could have killed me. And then you know we because I had wasted my life up until that point. It's like some sort of bizarro world that looks exactly like everything was, and but it's like from a Buddhist perspective, like one level down. And that this is very possible. And many of you have told me stories about how you should have been killed or should have. Many of you we have a commonality in this regard. But just to tell the story, the tree was not gigantic, but look, it was pretty rotted out. But whatever's left of a 25 or 30-foot oak. I mean, it's got to be 8 or 9 or 10,000 pounds, the whole thing. And it went through one of those trees. Those trees at the bottom, they're like the base is the same, it splits into a V. It went through that like a teeter totter. The back end kicked up, and I was like not ready for it all. And I just went to the ground and covered. There's nothing I could do. And it got like, it got hung up on something just about 8 or 9 feet up. How? I, I consider myself lucky. It was cold. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have killed me. It would have maybe broken all my ribs. I wouldn't have been able I would have just died out there, or I did. That's the whole point. And I consider myself lucky. Didn't at the time, nothing happened the next day or the few, but over time, very shortly after that, over maybe months or 6 months, or all this weird shit started to happen. It was right around 2012, and all these fake events got over the top, and the whole reality started to degrade pretty violently. And am I going to put all my chips just to say, Matt, if you had to guess, did it kill you? I'm not going to be like, yeah, it killed me. And I'm sitting here now in some nether world. But I'm just saying, I'm not only am I not taking that off the table, I put it higher up on the table, if you know what I mean, than I ever have. That possibility gets stronger and stronger and stronger as time goes on. And if that's the case, like it's not like then it's solipsism. I'm here by myself, and I know there's good people at the same level as me, and people like you, and there's no doubt about that. We don't know how many are here, Again, this gets into that 144,000 or whatever. It doesn't matter. But so it's like, what are we all doing here? And is Matt, does that mean everybody's going to have a story that they should have been killed? No, no, I don't. But I don't. Just if I could find, there's people I correspond with or have corresponded with for years, or Greg or whatever, where if they said, Matt, there's never been one situation even close where I should have been killed, I wouldn't then eliminate this theory. There's a whole lot of stuff going on here that we can't even fathom. I mean, they're here, you're here in this reality system, I'm here, Greg's here. It's like, well, some of us were killed in the old reality, but some of us are maybe here for other reason. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that I don't think, if we would all have that story. And because we wouldn't all have that story, I wouldn't be like, well, I have to give up that theory. I think there's a whole lot of shit going on here we just can't possibly fathom in the limited, the foggy mind we have, which is led by the ego through the mist, and parts of us like subconscious and unconscious that creates dreamscape and things about ourselves we don't understand. We don't. I mean, just we're so, the governor that's been placed on us, whether it's been intentional or not, we're so foggy here. People, we barely have a memory. Barely. What does Donald Sutherland say to Frank, which is Clint Eastwood in Space Cowboys? Matt, you believe in space? No. He says, "Oh, see, darling, I knew Frank here is the first one of us to crack. I knew one of us would crack. See, Frank here could tell you what he did in 1948, but he couldn't tell you what he what he had for breakfast this morning." And I don't. That basically is that a truth drop? No, but you know what I'm saying. Like we have, it's so foggy, even when we're on our game. This whole existence, where is it possible? Like some of us can't even remember what we had for breakfast yesterday. I mean, it's just, I don't know whether it's a natural part of this experience or like someone would be screaming out from their bathtub at me, Matt. That's the Anunnaki and the Archons. They devolved a human. They took us away from the golden age. They took away our special abilities. They hid us from ourselves. They created a slave race. That's what the Anunnaki did to us. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really matter because that is our experience here, but there's no doubt about it. Like I don't know any other way to say it. There's an aspect of us that's not here. Um, and it's a bridge, it's a bridge out of here. It's pretty simple. I mean, there's no fear of death or anything like that. Come on. And the only thing I would say that I'm wary of now is, if you're going to worry about recycling tricks at death and things like that, and we should all be aware of it. I'm just saying, be careful that you don't manifest it on yourself. If you are too concerned with, you have to get to a point where you use the reality for everything you possibly can use it for, and you get to a point where hopefully 20, 30 years before your death, and you say, I don't care if there are any tricks at death. I believe I'm not going to have to, I don't think it's a test. Like I have to read up exactly what to do. And, you can step here, look into the light, don't look at the light, whatever. You get to the point where you just have a complete belief that there's no possible way whatever is facilitating the trick in the astral after you die or whatever would be related to the same pathetic thing that facilitates the trick here. So why wouldn't I believe that if I can see through all bits of the trick here, why would I think the trick there would be any different? I don't. I just you get to the point where you just don't think there would be any way it would be able to play its three card Monty. Three three card Monty? Whatever the how many ever cards Monty? I don't give a shit. It's a shell game, I guess it's three. It doesn't matter. You get to like it would never you don't have to like study up on how to pass it because you just get to the point where it would never, I'm not, but it's not, on the same regard, it's not, it's worth being aware of. Okay. It's worth, but I'm just saying, don't fear it. So then you potentially can manifest it, on yourself. There's a lot of smart people that believe that, whatever, you believe, that one of the things you lay down here in this reality system, whatever you believe will happen to you at death, you will create and manifest. And is this why they even Harrison Ford in Empire Strikes Back? Then I'll see you in hell. Like how many people believe based on, not living up to certain standards that they are, probably going to end up in that purgatory. They are going to end up in that hell. And you know, your tauntaun will freeze by the first marker. My friend's out in it. Well, then your tauntaun will freeze. Well, then I'll see you in hell. It's like, well, why is Harrison Ford's a good guy? Why is he saying that? He's making it seem like, you know, he's going to go to hell, and even the security guard on the Hoth planet is going to. He's just trying to do his job. Why, Harrison? Why are you saying I'll see you in hell? What'd he do? Ain't his fault. He's just carrying a clipboard. So, it's like they put it in your subconscious. Oh, if Harrison Ford's going to hell. Maybe I. So you have to be careful as to what your belief system is so you don't completely bring it on yourself. Um, Tony has told me about this. This isn't something that any genius notion that I came up with on my own. I had to be told it, but when I was told it, I was like, it resonated with me. I was like, yeah, because that's why, this reality system leads you to believe a lot of things so you'll manifest it on yourself because you have to do it to yourself here for the most part. You have to if a spirit can be degraded down like the no consequence, like the opposite of what the no consequences people believe, then there's no, of course you have to do it to yourself. Nobody, if the consequences people are right, nobody can come in and just grab a soul token or a piece of you in terms of giving yourself away as a reverse Pinocchio effect, a real boy giving itself away to become wood, to become, the wooden figure that the reality system wants. You have to reach in and give it away. Voldemort in the Horcrux principle, nobody did it to him. Nobody jumped on Voldemort's back while he was jogging through the park like Truman. And Truman jumped on Voldemort's back and took pieces of his soul out and put it in Horcruxes like Ravenclaw's lost item and the jewels and Nagila, the damn snake or whatever. He did it to himself. He chose to put pieces of him. And in terms of its soul token thing, actually does apply to Voldemort because he was once a real boy Pinocchio. He was a little dark. Tom Riddle. That was a little dark little thing, but he create became something, made choices, and then put himself inside these items. He actually split his soul off into different things, which Harry and the other, uh, merry men had to go destroy. And if you think movies are truth drops, or media is truth drops, and almost everybody here does believe that one of the rules of this reality system, whether the people that create the art are aware of it or not, that the truth has to be put into movies and art and medias, or at least it's a carrier wave of truth that people can tune into if they're of a certain frequency. If you believe that, then Harry Potter absolutely is a gigantic truth drop series. Like, the boggart comes out, your worst fear, you cast the spell ridiculous, turn it into something ridiculous, overcome it, transmute it. If you believe that reality system works with truth drops, it's not very good for the no consequences people when Harry Potter is talking about, you know, nice little Tom Riddle devolving himself into Voldemort, and then splitting off pieces of his soul into items that are forever left in the material realm. That's not a if you consider that a truth drop, that's not one that's going to support the no consequences people very strongly. It does support, whether it's right or not. I don't know the old Matt term of soul tokens. Voldemort just reached in and said, I'm gonna choose myself to put myself in this vase or in the Happy Days jukebox or whatever. Voldemort put himself in the Happy Days jukebox. Every time it said goodbye gray sky, hello blue, that was like playing Stairway to Heaven backwards or some Voldemort message. So you get a little giddy, little giddy. Um, Go back and watch the Fonz today. I've seen it a couple times recently. He wasn't that cool. And then you see Henry Winkler outside the Fonz. Like, why would they get that guy to play? But it was cool at the time. I mean, I thought he was cool when I watched Happy Days coming home from junior high and high school and stuff like that. But he ain't that cool today. His dumb leather jacket and tight jeans and I don't know, whatever. Still a nice guy you want to hang with. He's a friendly guy, but not like tough or anything, you know? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, guys, I guess that's everything. Uh, I guess the debate will rage on, consequences versus no consequences. Thanks for tuning in. And are we close? How close are we to the 7-Eleven event? I don't know if it's going to be the one I'm working on for that. I don't know if it'll be free voice for this weekend or not. Probably should push it off till next weekend in terms of the reality breakdown regarding the no videos and all the numbers I'm crunching on that is just incredible. So it'll probably be next weekend on free voice. Thanks, guys.